What's up guys, it's ALLDAYANTHONY, and in today's video, the Miata is sold, the Civic got painted, and the RSX is running rough. Let's jump into it.
Yeah, I'm in your town, I'm coming your way, just wait up. Me and my team ain't taking no L's, I told them you don't wanna play us. We going downtown with a flight in the morning, said fuck it, I'm just gonna stay up. Remember last year, I told them the price, and now they all wanna pay up.
Alright guys, and welcome back to a much needed update video where quite a few things have changed over the last few weeks, including my garage. As you can see, all those storage racks and totes and all of that have disappeared, and eventually, hopefully, this garage will be nothing but vehicles, tools, and that freezer right there, because I could not win that battle and I didn't even want to try. So anyway, as you can see, some things have changed, including what's going on with my vehicle situation. So we're going to kind of segment this into three different parts here, and we're going to start with the Mazda Miata. All right, so it's true, the Mazda Miata has sold. Now, this may come as a surprise to some of you. Some other people may have seen this coming, but in short here, you guys kind of knew the whole story with Miata if you saw my previous videos, but if you didn't see those and wondering what the heck's going on, basically, I got this Miata. It was kind of nobody's car.
It's nobody's car.
Well, I mean, it was somebody's car, but the person that owned it really wasn't in the position to keep that car, or really didn't even know what to do with it for that matter. So she kind of plopped it into my lap and said, Anthony, help me out. You do car stuff. What do you want to do with this car? Do you want to buy it for cheap and then you can have it and do whatever you want with it? Or do you want to fix it up, help me fix it up, clean it up, detail it, all that kind of stuff, and then help me sell it, and then you'll get a good chunk of the profit? So when I made that first video of me saying, hey, I got this Miata and I really don't know what to do with it, that was like totally genuine. I really didn't know what to do with it. And so that video was kind of a feeler of throwing it out on the channel, trying to introduce it, trying to gauge interest to see if you guys would be interested in seeing a Miata build on the channel. And in that video, I jokingly said, if this video gets 100,000 views, I would keep the car, or I would figure out a way to keep the car. And you know what? I wholeheartedly meant that. If that video did that well, then I would have bought a storage unit, or I would have stored it at a friend's house, or just something. I would have kept the car around and then continue making content on it, even though I already have, honestly, just way too many freaking cars as is. But anyway, so that kind of happened, put out the video. The video did okay, it did pretty good. Thank you to everybody that watched, but it really didn't have the impact, at least for my channel, that I was hoping it would have. So that's where I kind of had to start making up my mind of whether or not I really wanted to keep it, buy it for cheap, or fix it up and sell it. So I just started making the detailing content just because that was the path I would have had to gone down anyways. And you know what? The videos didn't do that great. And that's okay. I'm totally fine with that. I mean, obviously you guys like me for the Honda content, and I am 100% cool with that, because you know what? I love Hondas, and I understand. So from there, I kind of decided after, I think the second video, after the interior detail video, that I was probably going to sell it. The weird part about this whole situation was that I've never had this happen to me before, but days after I got that Miata and I parked it out in front of my house, I had a neighbor that came to my house and knocked on my door and said, hey, what's the deal with that car, and are you interested in selling it? And I was like, no way. Like, what's the likelihood of this? Very convenient, am I right? So me and him talked about it, and I told him I didn't know what I was doing with the car yet, and I didn't know if I was going to keep it or fix it up or whatever the plan was, and he just told me to let him know. So after about the third video, I had pretty much come to the conclusion that, yeah, I'm probably going to sell it. And it wasn't because the videos weren't doing well on YouTube. That wasn't the main thing. The main thing was that I had too many damn cars. I was trying to give everything equal attention, and throwing the Miata into the mix was just too much. And yeah, I know it's like first world problems, but I don't know how other people do it that have like giant car collections. I don't know how you give each of your cars love, because I couldn't with that many cars. So after the exterior detailed video was done, he came over, checked it out, fell in love with the car. He loved everything about it, went and drove it, loved it, and we kind of had to start talking prices and whatnot. So what I was wanting for that car was a lot more than what probably most people would expect to pay for a Miata. And that was probably because of all the hard work I put into that car. I mean, it really did look good after I was done. And so me and him kind of went back and forth, and then eventually we settled on a price, and it was what I was looking for. And so I sold it. And fortunately, I was able to keep a good chunk of that money, which was great. And that was kind of it. So yeah, the Miata is officially sold. For what it's worth, the Miata was an awesome car. I had a ton of fun in that, and I did drive it quite a bit in the month and a half that I had it. So whether I was driving it to work or hitting back roads or whatever it may be, I was having a ton of fun driving it. Granted, the weather conditions weren't the best around that time for driving around that car. I only had a few top-down days, but you know what, man? The Miata is a very fun car. I will give it that. I kind of was a hater on the Miatas for many, many years, but after actually having one in my possession and driving it often, I totally fell in love with it, and I can agree that it's a very driver-focused car. The transmission, the way the shifter feels, the notchiness, and all of that is amazing, and I don't think you can have like a better like turnkey little slow race car for autocrossing or mountain driving or whatever it may be. So the Miata is great. I had a ton of fun in it. Would I own one again in the future, or would I actually own one in the future? Maybe not. I don't know. I just feel like if I were to have a two-door convertible, then I think, it would have to be a Honda S2000. That's not a hint. I'm not saying anything, but I'm just saying like an S2000 would be pretty dope. Am I right? So the Miata will be missed. It was a great car. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the content that I did create on it, even though it was pretty much just detailing stuff. But yeah, so anyway, time to move on to the next cherry on top, or technically we're in the cream portion of the cake pie. Let's just talk about the Civic. All right, so moving on to the Civic that you hopefully know and hopefully love. I realize that it's been quite some time since we've had some good old-fashioned Honda Civic content here on the channel, and I apologize about that. I know that many of you love this car and want to see more progress on it. I've just been dropping the ball with continuing to include this with the other car builds on the channel, and that kind of started with the white Civic, and then the CRZ, and now the RSX. My problem is that I tend to kind of hyper-focus on one car at a time, mainly because I get so excited about that car that I want to continue to see more progress and get it finished and film the stuff, that I forget that I already have a cool car. I already have a cool car, and yeah, I just need to focus more on balancing the content between this kind of stuff, the new stuff, and everything in between. But this car has finally gotten a little bit of love. So in my hybrid racing shifter install video, there was a bit where I had shown you guys that the clear coat was starting to catastrophically fail here on the hood. Quite literally, it was like flaking off in giant chunks. And when that started happening, I was like, damn, that's not good, because this car is known for being a very clean and shiny car, and that doesn't look so clean. That actually looks quite ugly, if I'm being honest. And so I started taking a closer look at the rest of the car, checking out the condition of the paint, and lo and behold, the front bumper had the start of clear coat failure on it as well, and that wasn't looking too good. And then the roof also had some pretty bad clear coat failure starting as well, and that may have only had maybe another month or two before that was going to start looking really, really bad. I mean, the car is what, 24 years old at this point, so I think it deserves to have some clear coat failing after this time. But yeah, it was starting to really get to me, and I wanted something to get done about that. So thanks to my friend Dave over at Auto Express, I was able to get some paint work done. So kind of a funny story, when this car was in the process of getting sanded down at the body shop, I posted a picture on Instagram and said in the caption that the car was going in for some paint work, and a lot of people didn't read the caption and they assumed that the Civic was in a wreck. So I got flooded with DMs and comments of people asking me if I was okay, if the Civic was okay, and all of this stuff, which thank you, by the way. I'm glad that you guys care about me that much. That's very nice of you. But no, the car was just getting some paint work done. So what all got resprayed? Well, in efforts to save money, as much as I would have loved to have resprayed the entire Civic, that really wasn't in the cards for me. So I mainly addressed the parts that were failing, which was the hood, the bumper, and the roof. What I ended up doing was going to Dave at Auto Express, and I said, dude, here's my budget, here's how much I'm willing to spend, what can we do for this price? And he was able to make some magic work. So the hood here was completely refinished and sanded down to bare metal. And Dave also had a PDR guy in the shop. His name is Jim, awesome guy. He went through and removed all of the dents from the hood, including the infamous dent that happens right here above the grill. And that way I didn't have any Bondo or body filler on the hood, which was quite nice. Overall, the respray looks absolutely phenomenal. The color match is perfect, and I'm super, super happy with how it turned out. Couple small fish eyes and things like that, but not a big deal at all. It looks really, really good. Now, the front bumper here was something that I was never expecting to see resprayed in my ownership. What most people don't know is that this thing had countless chips on it. Everybody talked about how clean my car was, but this thing was chipped to hell, and I think that Milano Red does a really good job of hiding all of that. So seeing this refinished and flattened out looks so freaking good. It really brought a lot of life to the front of this car, and I'm really, really happy about it. Now, we need to talk about the roof, because this was the one area I tried to save a little bit of money. So the roof here had some of the roughest paint on the car. It had tons of scratches, it had almost non-existent clear coat, it had some shallow dents that needed to be PDR'd out, and on top of that, it had heat fracturing that went down to the bare metal. Now, heat fracturing is basically crow's feet, and once that happens, you pretty much got to go all the way down to bare metal and completely refinish it. Now, because I was trying to save some money, and I kind of told Dave I was working on a budget, I told him, what could we do to essentially not have to go down to bare metal to save money, but to give this car more life and give the roof more life? And we ended up settling on sanding down to color, spraying more color, and then drowning it in clear coat. And that, for the most part, worked pretty well. Now, some body shop people might be seeing this and going, oh my God, what are you doing? Guys, it was my idea, and again, I was trying to save some money, and you know what? I think we did just that. So, is this a perfect finish? Absolutely not. You could still see some of the residual heat fracturing. There's some sanding marks that still need to be buffed out and whatnot, but I saved a ton of money by not having to go down to bare metal, and for the most part, I think this is exactly what I was looking for. Again, hood's been resprayed. This front bumper's been resprayed. I resprayed that lip myself. The roof's been resprayed. This fender was resprayed. That door was resprayed. That mirror was from the junkyard. This rear bumper was resprayed, and that spoiler was obviously resprayed. So yeah. At this point in time, like almost half of my, actually the side skirts, I did those myself as well. So yeah, I guess at this point, guys, most of this car, roughly half of it has been resprayed. So really all I need to do with the rear quarters, the trunk, that door over there, and I think that front fender, and we'll have all new paint at different points of time, which is quite hilarious. So I think I can honestly say that this might be the best that the Honda Civic has ever looked in terms of paint work. Now keep in mind, I still need to go back through and repaint correct all the rest of the stuff and then re-ceramic coat everything, but this car is looking pretty damn good. I'm really happy with it. So it kind of breathes some new life into the car, and I have a lot of catching up to do with this thing. Everything from maintenance to mods and kind of everything in between. So I'm hoping to feature this car more, especially now that I'm a little bit more confident with it without all that clear coat failure. So pretty excited with how it turns out. So we've talked about the questionably good, the questionably ugly, and now we need to talk about the somewhat bad. So let's talk about the RSX. All right, I was gonna pull it in, but honestly, I'm feeling a little lazy right now, so we'll just use the Civic as my prop. So the RSX, I've reached this pinnacle point in probably age and mileage on that car where things are starting to fail, and that's understandable. So basically, I had an engine mount the other day just blow out on me on the passenger side. So I was going to the gym one night, went and started the car, warmed it up, pulled it out, and I noticed that the interior was like violently vibrating. And I'm like, well, that's not good. So popped the hood, looked over, and noticed that my passenger side engine mount was not even just kind of cracked. I mean, it had completely shifted and was just broken in half. And I was like, damn, that sucks, right? So did some research, tried to figure out what kind of engine mounts I wanted to go with, whether or not it was going to be aftermarket or OEM. Based off of everything I read, pretty much everybody said that the aftermarket ones, they vibrate to hell. It's not really worth it. If you're gonna maybe do one aftermarket mount, maybe have it be the front mount or the rear mount, but everything else should continue to be OEM. So ordered in an OEM mount for a whopping, whatever it was, $180. Swapped that out here in the garage, and the car started feeling a lot better. But now there's been some other things. So I've been wanting to drive that car, right? So I've been cracking some Mad VTEC at 3 a.m. and enjoying the car for what it is. And now I've noticed that my front control arm bushings are on their way out as well. So they're really starting to creak. They're not sounding super great. And so basically those need to be replaced now. So which is funny because I'm imagining what's going to happen is I'm going to replace those, and then there's going to be something else. And so I'm just going to be making my way around the car, replacing all sorts of things. And I was thinking about this to myself the other day, that it's so strange, man. The RSX, it's such a cool car. It's such a fun car. But that car relies very heavily on bushings and mounts and all that stuff. I mean, if something goes out on that car, you're gonna feel it, you're gonna notice it, it's gonna be very apparent. But on 90s Hondas here, I mean, hell, man, these motor mounts, they could be shot. I wouldn't know though, right? Car doesn't feel any different. The bushings on everything could be shot. Wouldn't know. Everything still feels freaking solid. It feels amazing. So that's kind of the funny parts about different Honda ownership, is realizing that there is kind of a difference there. And the RSX compared to the Civic, I mean, this car is like a cockroach, right? It's just going to kind of keep going and going. Whereas the RSX with that chassis, I feel like if something goes out or something goes wrong, or if there's a new noise, you're definitely going to hear it, and you're probably going to want to replace it. And so anyway, that's kind of, if you want to call it the bad. It's not horribly bad, but it's just another thing that I have to do on top of the other things that I have to do. But there's a lot of good for that car that's been happening that you guys will see here in the upcoming videos. So hopefully this video isn't too long. It probably is. It's mainly just an update. Hopefully I've included enough B-roll to make things interesting. But yeah, in short, man, the Miata is sold. The Civic got some paint work. The RSX, I'm just having to replace things, and that's totally understandable, right? And it is what it is. But regardless, if you guys love my content and want to see more of it, please make sure to give me a big thumbs up. Comment down below and let me know what you think of the paint work. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next one. It's ALLDAYANTHONY. Peace.